One was a companion, a mate, Eve, as we would say, male and female, a partnership, a relationship. The other was, and you know where it goes, and then Adam and Eve were admitted to a long-term care facility. Actually, it doesn't go that way. They went to live in a garden. Life is better in a garden. People were meant to live in a garden. If you follow the story, and you could follow the story from a religious or non-religious point of view regarding your preference, but if you follow that story, what it says is, sort of the creator of the universe, the all-knowing one, said, what's the ideal environment for human beings?
Garden.
Yeah! And then things went sort of sideways the way they do. And the worst punishment that could be imagined was to be ejected from the garden. Now let's put this back into the context of aging. We're world makers. We make a world for frail elders when we make a place for them to live. And that world is as unlike a garden as anything you can find in Western culture, outside of a maximum security prison. This is wrong, and we have to change it. And what's interesting, ecological reasoning and methods can lead us to a revolution in practice. So what happened is I was the doctor and the medical director, and we put together a project called the Eden Alternative. And the idea of the Eden Alternative was to make a garden. So we plowed up the lawn and made a garden. Out back of the nursing home, we put in kids' playground, and we started a child care center at the nursing home. We brought in 1,000 green growing plants. Many of the species mentioned earlier. We brought in to a nursing home where 80 people lived, 400 birds. Lots and lots of birds. Finches, parakeets, canaries, cockatiels. Lots and lots of birds. Every elder had an opportunity to have a pair of birds as personal companions and pets. We brought in dogs and cats. And we reckoned we scratched the surface. We had a beginning of making a garden where people could grow. Human beings must be connected to the earth. When that connection is lost, we cannot be complete. So it is not surprising that when you say the word nursing home, a little shudder goes up your spine. Those of us who work in the field, we unfortunately lose that little shudder, but our family members still have it. And when they come to see you at work, they're like, yeah. But the reason it feels so bad is it's a place that's founded on decline. And here I want to broaden my statement, actually to the whole of American culture. Earlier we saw, graphs and statistics indicating this wastefulness of our culture. And in that wastefulness, I would add, we waste the life experience of our elders. We throw it away. We call it nothing and dismiss it. And human beings got to be human beings because the lived experience of elders is very, very important. Now, come with me on a journey back in time to a moment, a very long time ago. And I wouldn't be able to say when it was, but I know this happened. There was a little group of human beings, and the day had been hot, and the night had come, and still the heat was stifling. There was a little fire that was meant to keep the predators at bay. And this little group of people were clustered together. And if you listened, you'd hear the sound of a young girl crying. Now, why was she crying? And the answer is, she was hungry. Why was she hungry? And the answer is, her mother had just given birth on that very day, and her mother had lost a lot of blood, and her mother was weak and barely had the strength to nurse her newborn. So that little girl had had nothing to eat. Now, what happened that night when that little girl cried is, for the first time in the history of life on earth, for the very first time ever, that little girl's mother's mother was moved by compassion and picked that little girl up and held her and gave her something to eat. And you know why I'm telling her story right now? Because that was the first grandmother in the world. Among this little group of people, it became the practice that older people would reach across the generations and tend to and care for the young. And that's what made us truly human. There is no other creature on earth that reliably, consistently, and universally grandparents. None. If you want to, I actually looked into this, and you can find examples of grandparenting behavior, particularly among elephants and closely related primates. But among human beings, we are adapted precisely to maximize the impact of grandparenting. Let me give you a couple examples. I'm going to compare our closest living relatives, which would be the chimpanzees, and us. I don't know if you knew this, we have 98% same DNA. And I just want to say thanks for the other 2%. I just want you to imagine this conference without the other 2%. You would all be picking lice out of each other's hair, not listening to the lecture. Anyway, so it turns out that chimpanzees, females, from birth to reproductive age, how long does it take a chimpanzee to get from birth to reproductive age? Female.
8 years.
How many?
8.
8?
5.
12 to 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah. How long does it take, or how many years fertility can a chimpanzee female expect to have? 30? About the same as a human. Man, he did well in college, didn't he? Guess what the professor is thinking? Exactly. A chimpanzee pregnancy is about 8 months, the human's about 9 months. Actually, a lot of similarities, except one. The maximum lifespan for a chimpanzee is about 55 years old. Chimpanzee females remain of reproductive age until the very end. And that's it. Once at the end, no more life, no more reproduction, done. Human beings have a staggeringly beautiful and important innovation called menopause.